All right, so I'm back with my annual gift list. Christmas gifts for any outdoorsman in your life, or if you're just looking for something to buy yourself. I'm gonna go over a bunch of stuff that I use this year through a bunch of guiding, a bunch of personal hunts. It's gonna be stuff that I have tested, proven, and it has been useful to me. There's gonna be a few throwbacks to stuff that I've had in my old gift list also, but for the most part, kind of some new stuff. So let's dive right into it. We're gonna start with stocking stuffers. Not necessarily the cheapest stuff, but the smallest stuff. So the first thing that I'll start off with is, for any of you guys that are out there rifle hunting, or you've got somebody you're trying to buy a gift for that rifle hunts, buy one of these little Phoenix lights. And the real nice thing about these Picatinny mountable lights like this is they can go on your handguns, they can go on any of your hunting rifles. Almost all hunting rifles nowadays have a pick rail attachment for a bipod, or you can easily put one on your rifle's forearm. And it makes it nice to always have a light like this. You can throw it on there if you're blood tracking. Now you've got a really handy flashlight to use in addition to your headlamp. It makes finding blood, tracking animals, dispatching wounded animals when there's no light way easier. Really good stocking stuffer. I think they run about 100, 150 bucks. The next one that is also firearm related, this is actually an oil filter remover. You can find it at any hardware store, automobile store, any of that, but you can also find them online at Amazon. I'll stick a link down below. This small one is very handy for anybody that has a can on their rifle. I don't call by its name because it seems to cause me problems with YouTube, but this wrench is very helpful for removing those and also keeping them really tight. So after you shoot your rifle a bunch, a lot of times those cans will loosen up a little bit, and it's nice to be able to tighten them down with one of these before you go to the range. But the bigger issue is you can no longer get it off. And this happens for a bunch of different reasons, environmental variables, whatever, but sometimes you can't fit your rifle into the case unless you take the can off. And if you can't get it off by hand, you've got to have a way to do that. Inexpensive stocking stuffer for any rifle guys. The next one is straight out of my EDC, and that is this little guy right here. This is the Nebo Slim Mini. The configuration on it is actually the light right here, and it is extremely bright, but the key thing that makes it handy, look how thin it is. Throw it in my pocket, throw it in any sort of little EDC bag. I have it in a fanny pack there that I have with me all the time. It's just nice to have a little light. And then the other thing about it is it has a little magnet on that side. All right, so outside of layers, the number one thing that I get asked about in terms of things that I'm wearing in my content is my watch. This is the Tactics 8 from Garmin. It is one of their higher end watches. It's very comparable to the Fenix 8. I like it for many reasons. The primary reasons I use this is for backup navigation. I do dive a lot, I spearfish a lot, so I can go from hunting land to hunting water seamlessly. So it's a dive watch plus backup navigation. I can use it as a compass. I can use it to track my sunset, sunrise. Every hunter needs that so they know legal shooting time. I find a lot of different ways I use this thing. Lately, I've been using it to track my heart rate variability. It can track your sleep. Lots of handy things about it. One of the key features of this watch that I use a lot is the light. That light right there on this watch is no joke. Like, it's a backup headlamp. So in terms of safety things, I talk about this in a lot of my videos. I'll stick one of those videos up right here where I talk about essential gear and survival gear and that sort of thing. A couple of the key components is to have backup navigation. We're so dependent on our phones. We're so dependent on Onyx. The issue with that is, what if we lose our battery, right? What if we drop our phone in the water? We need to have backup navigation, so I can use it for that. And the other big one that people run into huge issues with is if they don't have a backup headlamp. This watch can also do that. It's a good enough light, it's bright enough, you can use it to get down the mountain. So right there, that's a nice thing about this particular model of Garmin. But just to give you some options, because that's a $1,000 stocking stuffer, which is pretty wicked. If you want some similar options, pretty much the same. They don't have as good of a user interface in terms of using the map, but they can still be used for backup navigation, and that's the Instinct models of the Garmin's. These are down more around that $400 to $600 range, depending on the options you have. The newer one here, it does have the light, and it can be used for backup navigation and all the other primary uses. I can't use it as a dive watch, and that's particularly why I use the Tactics 8 or the Fenix 8, but you could get away with this as a gift for almost any outdoorsman, and they would be very happy. Back to some firearm stuff. So I happen to be traveling with firearms right now, so I can tell you exactly what a guy needs that has to travel anytime with firearms. So one of these Pelican cases for 2 rifles is nice. A lot of guys think they're only gonna travel with 1 rifle, but eventually you'll find that you're gonna travel with 2. And the thing about this size case is, if you look right here, I have 2 rifles in here. I've got all this ammo, I've got a chronograph, I've got my locks, I've got everything I need in here, and it's still below 50 pounds. So if you have a smaller case, you're still gonna have to pay the checked baggage fee, but it's only gonna weigh 20 pounds. You're much better off having a larger case, particularly one that's got wheels on it here. I can just drag this around, and then I can shove stuff in there that would otherwise be in my checked bags, my other checked bags, and it keeps them from going overweight and having additional fees. So this size case is a great gift. There's Pelican ones, that's kind of like the gold standard, but there's some other knockoffs. I'll put a couple links down below, and they're very similar cases. I've used them also. A couple other, you could call these stocking stuffers. Any hunter, anybody using rifles, they will benefit from having a pair of these. I always want to call them quick sticks, but that's something else. These are called fix-it sticks, and what they are is really just a compact toolkit. So 95% of what anybody's gonna do with a rifle in terms of tweaks, tightening things up, checking torque on things, any of that sort of stuff you can do with this kit right out of the box. It's got a driver, it's got a torque wrench here, very simple engineering, not complex, nothing that can go wrong. There are going to be little things that aren't in here. In particular, a lot of the different scope manufacturers, different optic manufacturers, the turret caps, they're gonna have different Allen wrenches in different sizes, some of them very small, particularly when you get into adjusting zero stops. So what I do in these little bags, that's what you see here. You see little Allen wrenches. I just throw them in the back so I have them all together. And then I keep an extra battery in here for my lighted reticles on any of my optics. Now, even having said that, eventually anybody you buy these tools for, they will find an instance where they don't have the right driver. Little star bits, little bitty Allen wrenches, little variations that they won't have. So I recommend you just get one of these little cheap bit kits on Amazon. I'll put a link down below. You can check it out. The one that I know kind of applies to most rifle situations. These are not expensive, and they don't need to be expensive because these off variations are not bits that somebody's gonna use over and over and over again. They're gonna be ones that you're just happy to have the 3 or 4 times in a year, maybe you use them. So I recommend that as a stocking stuffer to augment the fix-it sticks. And then Nightforce actually makes a pretty cool little kit that's similar, also a little more extensive. I'll put a link for it down below also. Guys, biltong, okay? I have been obsessed with this stuff for 3 or 4 years. Ever since I got on a keto, carnivore, paleo-esque type of diet, I've had a hard time finding healthy snacks. Biltong is a great option, particularly the slabs that have this fat on the side. That's where your energy is if you're a fat burner like me. Super simple ingredients in this, guys. Literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients. Pair that to your gas station jerky, a great snack in the backcountry or just day to day. Biltong Depot is a huge supporter of my content. Go to their website, biltongdepot.com. Use my code CliffGray, CLIFFGRAY at checkout for 10% off and to support this content. Thanks, guys. All right, so a couple rifle direct ones that I'll show you. So you can see this cover right here. This is from Armageddon Gear. This is an Unknown Suppressor's OG can, and this fits perfectly on it. Now, I have had a bunch of different suppressor covers. I literally shot this morning without a suppressor cover, and after 5 or 6 shots in the heat, you will get mirage off of your suppressor. It doesn't really apply to hunting as much, but if you're shooting much at all, particularly in the sun, I'm in Phoenix down here right now, I could see the mirage in my optic, so a cover does help. The problem with suppressor covers is when you need them, they tend to blow off. So in the hunting scenario, when you don't really need one, you won't realize that they always get blown off because you don't shoot enough, but they work themselves up the can, and then eventually they blow off the can and you see them out there 30 or 40 yards away. All of the other covers that I've used do that. I actually had a client who had one of these on here, and I was kind of busting his balls about it because every single variation of a can cover that I've used blows off eventually. And he's like, no. And he told me, no, I don't think this one does. And I left thinking he was full of shit, but I got one and I've been using it and it doesn't come off. The reason it doesn't come off is because the way it fits, it snugs here where it hits the bottom of the can like that and it catches. So it's not gonna blow off the can. The only negative, and this is something for folks to consider, is I like to carry my rifle by the can like this a lot, kind of safari style. If you do that with a cover like this, you have to realize that it will slide back. You generally can't get them tight enough where they won't slide back. So you have to realize that when you're holding it. When I'm hunting, I actually prefer not to have a cover on it just for this reason, so I can hold it without it sliding. But if you want a cover to shoot at the range or whatever, this is the best one. Armageddon gear. This could actually be a stocking stuffer too, but it's just a cool gift. A lot of my viewers are Tikka guys. You can see this is a rock stock on a Tikka action. Now, this is a cool bottom metal that was customized for me. You can see it's got my family brand on it right here. And that is from High Desert Works. So you can go check them out. They can make cool customized bottom metal for Tikkas. All right, so the last stocking stuffer is one of these big battery packs. So I had a bunch of these, including a couple smaller ones on my previous gift list. You can go check out my last year's gift list here. I know that I had a small one that I keep in my pack all the time, but this is a different deal. This is a much bigger volume charger in two different ways. One, just the overall capacity, but the more important one is the amount of watts that can be pulled off it at one time. So these charging packs right here, if they're made for phones, for watches, for headlamps, that sort of thing, they only give you the ability to pull 10, 15, 20 watts at a time, but you really need something that can pull 100 watts off the battery at a time. And the reason is, gets me into the non-stocking stuffers, the Starlink. So I used the Starlink a bunch in a bunch of my backcountry camps this last year. This is a Starlink Mini, and this is a great gift. I think they're $400 or $500, and you can get plans where really it's pretty efficient just to use them during hunting season. But I think what you'll probably find is it might become like your primary internet. We're traveling right now, and it's easy just to set it up outside. I literally put it in the sunroof of our minivan when I'm traveling with my kids, and they have internet the entire time we're driving. But in terms of the backcountry application, you have to have two things. You have to have battery packs like this, a way to charge them. I just use solar panels. You can go look at previous gear lists and gift lists. I go over some solar panels I use. I still use the same ones for the most part. The only exception is sometimes I'll carry a bigger Nebo one. I'll stick a link down below. You can check that out. But in general, you can just get away with a good backpack solar panel without a problem. You just have to be careful how much you're using the Starlink, because you will run one of these down. Generally, what I have found is I can use the Starlink in a camp for about an hour and a half. With one of these, if I'm being very prudent about getting it out in the sun during the day and getting it charged back up. But the key component is this needs to be able to pull 30 to 40 watts when it starts up, and then it settles down into that 15 to 20 watt range. But if you don't have the proper battery, you won't be able to run the Starlink Mini. So that is a stocking stuffer that kind of combines with one of my favorite gifts of the whole deal. Okay, so to complete that Starlink gift, you've got to buy all the components if you're buying it for a backcountry hunter. So there are folks out there that are selling complete systems. So they've got like a Pelican case that's got a battery in it. It's got the Starlink in the top. I've used them. There's a ranch I guide on that we use them in our little buggies as we get around. So we have Starlink all the time, just primarily for communication. You'll find you use it a lot for that because you can make phone calls with it. You can FaceTime your family, those sort of things, which are nice sometimes. So it's good for communication. But I don't like the complete systems for real backcountry stuff because you have to move everything together for a whole bunch of reasons. If you got a wall tent set up or something like that, you want to be able to get that panel away so you can get it away from the trees, you can get it unobstructed, and you can get the alignment set up. I prefer to just have a freestanding dish away from the battery for that. And then also, I already showed you the battery I'm using. I find that most cases, if you've got decent weather and you're prudent about it, you don't need to carry a huge battery. I've tried that, and I actually found the smaller batteries just better and more usable. And the other thing is, and I'll just make a note here, the big batteries, if you accidentally leave the Starlink on all day while you're out hunting, they'll still get drained. Whereas at least with the small ones, you could have 2 of those, one is a backup, and they're still gonna be way cheaper than a bigger battery. And then you have a backup. You're not just completely out. So this is a just cheap Pelican knockoff type of case that you can buy on Amazon. I'll put a link, but it's set up for a Starlink. So you can sit the dish in here, you can sit all the cords in here. The only other thing you need is you need a USB-C cord for your Starlink. And that's easy to buy. They got them on Amazon. Starlink sells them. I'll put a link down below. So now we're going to talk about glassing related gifts. This right here is called the 360. And what it allows you to micro pan. It goes in between the pan head and the base to the tripod. I've got a lot going on here, but it's just this piece. And this piece could actually be used on any head or any tripod, right? So it just has an ARCA attachment. It's just this piece right here. I used it probably every 10-15 minutes while I was glassing this year over a ton of hunts. That is a super cool piece of gear. Not expensive. I think they're around $100. Guys, I've been using onX Maps for almost 2 decades now, hunting, guiding, outfitting. It is the gold standard tool when it comes to mapping software in the hunting world. They've been a huge supporter of my content for multiple years. So if you want to support me and you want to support them, use my code CliffG for 20% off at onxmaps.com. It is an awesome tool that I use all the time when I'm preparing for hunts, and I use it almost every single day in the field. For navigation, knowing unit boundaries, knowing private land boundaries, it is the tool you have to have. All right, so the next optic gift. So this is 2,000 bucks. Not a cheap gift, but if you're buying something for somebody that's got everything already, this is a stabilized spotter. So I'm doing a whole video on this. It'll be up within the next week. I hated this thing, if I was being completely transparent, when I first got it. It wasn't a usability thing. It wasn't even an ergonomics thing. There's little things that I found ridiculous about it. The lens cap it comes with is a total piece of shit. Little things like that. But I think really the reason I didn't like it is I didn't understand the right use case. This is not for every hunter. If you're buying a gift for a backpack hunter who is cutting every little ounce and might look at this as, hey, this is a way to get rid of a tripod because now I have a stabilized spotter, this won't work. It doesn't work well for that application. The short of it is once you hold it like this, sure, it stays steady, but after doing this for 30 minutes, you get exhausted of holding it, regardless of the fact that the technology keeps the image stable. So what I have found, this spotter is actually most applicable for hunters that are doing a varied bunch of different types of hunts. So road-based hunting, short hikes to glassing, just pulling out a spotter to glass or video an animal real quickly. I mean, anybody that's doing that kind of stuff, which is a huge chunk of hunters, this is a great piece of gear. And the other thing is, Sig told me they're gonna come out eventually here with another eyepiece that has a reticle in it, and that will make this an awesome piece of gear and optic for shooters. So people that are out there shooting rocks, mid-range to long-range shooting, they need to call the wind, they need to call hits. This will be awesome for that because they can use that reticle. As it is now, it's very handy for that because somebody can get a quick shot opportunity. I can pull it out, I can throw my camera on there on this little magnet. I can videotape the shot, and that's very valuable. That is a kick-ass piece of gear for those applications. So if somebody you're buying a gift for is into that stuff, this might be something that they would really enjoy. And this is a beer koozie that I'm using to replace the ridiculous lens cap. Oscar 6 stabilized spotter. All right, so you guys have seen me wear this thing a ton. You've seen the inline commercials. It's hitting the gift list because it is one of my favorite gifts. And nowadays in the Western states, if you're gonna have any exposure to grizzly bears, why not carry a pistol? This is the easiest way to carry one under your bino harness, and everybody, archery hunters, rifle hunters, they're all carrying a bino harness. Guys try to carry pistols on their waist belt, and a lot of times that means the pistol is away from them while the pack is over there and they're over here. It just doesn't work that well. It also just doesn't work all that well ergonomically, and then having positive control of the pistol all the time. So I like these chest holsters. This is the Invader Concepts ring cone. I do have a discount code. It's CliffG, and it's 10% off. So great gift. All right, guys, am I being wishy-washy about barefoot boots? I guess maybe, but really what it comes down to is I am trying different barefoot options all the time. Historically, I have used the Jim Green boot, and those are in my old gear list, and I still like them, but I have been wearing these Vivo barefoot boots, and these are the Forest Tracker, the leather version. The short of it is these are more comfortable and they feel more like you're actually barefoot. The Jim Green boots, they are a little less barefooty. They both have 0 drop, so there's no arch or anything like that in both boots. But the Jim Green has a thicker sole that you feel. It's more like having a thick leather sandal. It's like this kind of sole. It protects you a little bit more, and that's an advantage. With these, you're protected in the sense that there's a sole there and there's actually pretty nice traction. I'd say a little bit better than the Jim Greens, but you feel every rock through these things. Now, the trade-off is these are just generally more comfortable. They almost don't even feel like a boot. For years, getting back into camp, the first thing I wanted to do is take my boot off. I did that much less with the Jim Green, but now with these, I find myself wearing them all the time in camp. So they're worth a look. They're similar price to the Jim Green. It's just gonna be a little bit of personal preference, but these ones are on my list, primarily because I wore them a bit more than I wore the Jim Greens this year. All right, so the last gift is actually one of these, and they're not expensive, and they really are not just unique to archers or anybody with a history of archery. This is just a recurve bow, and this is an inexpensive one by Samick. And what I'll do is I'll put together a little list below that would be kind of a kit of everything. These little dampeners, all the other, accessories. Unlike rifle stuff, unlike compound bow stuff, you're talking about everything all in for less than 200 bucks. And they're just nice for somebody to play around with. I think anybody that's into rifle shooting, compound archery, any of that would enjoy one of these. A 30 to 45 pound draw weight's super fun. I have played with recurves my whole life, and I think that a lot of people are missing out by not having one just for the shits and giggles of it. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed that list. I've got another list right here from last year. So if I didn't hit a category, particularly like the backcountry camping front or those sort of interests, go check out that video. You'll find a bunch of gifts there. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.